Matson, celebrating 25 years of commitment to Guam, Micronesia, and the CNMI. Cars Plus Hyundai, home of the Kona electric vehicle, an electric heart with an SUV soul. Test drive yours today at Cars Plus. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it, and King's Restaurant, serving your local breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites for over 45 years.
Ahead on Primetime, housing for the island's most vulnerable poses a challenge for GURA. Daniel Perez has the story. Plus, the controversial piece of legislation that will terminate the public health emergency hits session floor tomorrow. And the military is reshuffling its strategy after CNMI scales back. These stories and more right here, right now on your news leader.
Hafide and good evening, everyone. I'm Hannah Devanzo, and thanks for tuning in to your news leader. The Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority is facing a problem of keeping the island's elderly population housed. Daniel Perez has tonight's top story.
Housing for many on island is already an issue, but it's especially problematic for some of our most vulnerable. Acting Executive Director for the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, Elizabeth Napoli, shared the reasons why some of Guam's manuncles aren't able to remain housed. A common issue is that the elder may be on their own and in need of a caretaker.
And oftentimes they can't afford caregiving services. There are providers out there that provide caregiving services, but it's affording it that is the issue. And it really breaks my heart when I receive calls from those elderly that tell me, I can't live here by myself, but I can't afford to have a caregiver. What kind of help can I get?
Napoli stated when calls like this are received, GURA contacts other agencies that specialize in caring for elderly people.
I have to reach out to, the adult protective services or the public health services for the adults. I have to reach out to any one of the other agencies that provide support services to see what can be done. And oftentimes, the funding is the problem. If they're on fixed incomes and then on top of that, they have medical issues, they need caregiving, they need transportation services, etc., it becomes difficult for them, and sometimes they end up having to lose their housing because they can't afford the rent anymore.
Family support also plays a big role in the lack of housing for some.
That's how come they end up coming to GURA, is because their families can no longer house them, and they need to be housed somewhere. So yes, that is how we end up getting referrals. And they're usually referred by one of the other agencies, or they call themselves and say, I'm at risk of homelessness. How can you help me? And then that's when we get as much information as possible from them regarding their situation. They just don't have enough social workers, enough caregivers, people that can provide that one-on-one assistance to the vulnerable populations like our elderly and our persons with disabilities.
Napoli added that GURA has been meeting with other groups to tackle the situation on keeping the island's elderly housed. These include Senator Amanda Shelton's Senior Citizen Housing Task Force and UOG's recent housing symposium that was part of the University of Guam's 13th Conference on Island Sustainability. Daniel Perez reporting for KUAM News.
The founding president of Air America Radio, John Sinton, is the latest person to join the letter campaign to send Evan Montville Cohen to jail. Cohen pled guilty to fraud charges last year in district court, but is asking he be sentenced to time served with 1 year of home confinement as a condition of supervised release. Montville Cohen was one of the driving forces behind the startup of Radio Network. Sinton met him in 2003. He wrote that he had no inkling that he was a con man who effectively stole money from Gloria Wise Boys and Girls Club. As reported, Montville Cohen allegedly transferred over $800,000 from the nonprofit group to help fund the radio network, but defended that he had used the money for chemotherapy for his alleged brain cancer. Sinton wrote Montville Cohen was a convincing liar. He spun a tale of brain cancer, a thriving media business back in Guam, and a dependent wife and autistic son in New York. Air America was eventually forced into bankruptcy. Sinton is asking the court to imprison Cohen for the longest term allowable so he won't be allowed to bilk others. Montville Cohen's ex-wife, son, and mother have all asked the judge to give him the maximum sentence possible. He is scheduled to be sentenced next month. A bruise on a newborn in the shape of a hand led to the arrest of a 31-year-old man, making it the second child abuse case on an infant this week. Clayton Charles Smith faces child abuse and family violence after health workers at the KUAM Memorial Hospital reported dark purple bruising on the lower chest to the abdomen and leg of a 6-week-old infant. The child's mother reported that she woke up to the child crying and noticed a pink bruise turning darker, which prompted her to take the child to the hospital. Smith is alleged to have been watching the child while the mother was sleeping. Court documents state that a doctor from the KUAM Memorial Hospital told police that she believed the baby just bruised easily. The child's mother claimed that Smith was a good man and believed there was no crime. She also refused to allow officers to observe and photograph the child's injuries. Smith allegedly barricaded himself inside the room and refused to cooperate with the cops. He was later arrested. What started as a traffic violation ended in an arrest for drugs. On April 10, 32-year-old Hector Luis Marrero was pulled over for disobeying a stop sign. Officers later learned that the plates of the car belonged to a different vehicle. Marrero allegedly told officers that he switched the plates because the registration assigned to the car he was driving had lapsed. After consenting to a car search, officers allegedly found drugs and other paraphernalia, including a small digital scale. Officers conducted a field test on one of the plastic baggies confiscated, which tested positive for meth. Court documents state that Marrero allegedly claimed ownership of the drugs and admitted to regularly purchasing and consuming meth in the past. He faces possession of a schedule to control substance. There's also been no new developments with the investigation into the murders that occurred in January. It was on Sunday, January 23rd, 63-year-old Patrick Ken Sakai was found dead in his home along Challen Emsley in Jigo. According to autopsy findings, Sakai died from multiple stab wounds and blunt force trauma. You may also recall on January 29th, a man was found dead along Route 10 in Chalampago. An autopsy revealed that he was murdered. The victim has not been identified but has 2 noticeable tattoos on his body. GPD has not released any additional information. However, if you have any information regarding either of these murders, you're urged to call 671-475-8615. And it's been a little over 2 weeks since closing arguments were presented in Rudy Canata's trial, and still no verdict from the jury. Last April, the former Humatak Mayor Daniel Sanchez was found dead inside of Canata's residence with 23 stab wounds. In February, Canata's girlfriend, Joyner Sked, was found guilty by the jury in connection to the murder. During closing arguments, Canata's lawyer Peter Santos claimed Sked is the true killer and that his client is innocent. He even went as far as to say that the police failed miserably and conducted a tunnel vision investigation. And controversial Resolution 291 goes up for showdown on session floor on Thursday. The measure would end the current public health emergency, which the governor is against. The governor has said the emergency must remain in place because it could put at risk millions in federal funding for programs such as SNAP. It was a fight just to get Resolution 291 on session agenda, and according to Minority Leader Senator Chris Duenas, amid Holy Week, he plans to keep things calm, professional, but demand accountability. The senator says his plan to lay the groundwork in his opening remarks to discuss what other states have done to ensure the flow of federal funds.
A lot of them have issued narrow emergency orders for the purpose of, nursing homes, nursing licensure. So we certainly understand, and particularly the SNAP program. So we understand that there are areas, and through my research, there are certain very narrow areas where the governor can easily go in and rescind this current executive order and issue a narrow, executive order and end all these mandates and end everything else, but just maintain the public health emergency.
Senator Duenas says he will be calling on the governor's fiscal people to appear before senators. Sessions get underway on Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Reacting to the governor's veto of his Bill 123, Senator Tony Atta called it unfortunate the chief executive chose to veto a bill that would have helped keep drug abusers out of our GovGuam departments and agencies. He says his bills would have closed the legal loophole that allowed employers to resign from their jobs rather than take a random drug test and then invoke their right to be re-employed. Senator Atta adds drug abuse by GovGuam workers is unacceptable and he intends to move for an override. Senator Tello Taitigui also reacting to the veto of her Bill 239, saying that it's unfortunate the governor does not believe that private adoption companies should undergo the same level of scrutiny before they can be issued a license. She said, the governor has not only opened the door for criminals to get close to our children that need a home and family, she left it wide open. Over in the NMI, all 5 trial court judges recused themselves in the case of CNMI versus Ralph Anthony de Leon Guerrero Torres, citing conflicts of interest and potential questions about their impartiality. KUAM has confirmed that Guam Superior Court Judge Alberto Tolentino was appointed by CNMI Chief Justice Alexandro Castro on Monday to hear the case involving the CNMI Attorney General criminal charges against Governor Torres. Parties have 10 days to file a motion to disqualify Tolentino if they believe there are reasonable grounds. The AG lists 14 counts, 12 counts for misconduct in public office, 1 count for theft, and 1 count for contempt. The AG asserts in the lawsuit that the governor did an illegal act under color of office on April 10th. The Office of the Governor told the media that they trust the CNMI justice system and declined to comment further on the pending litigation. The matter has been forwarded to Governor Torres' private counsel. In regional news, as the Department of Defense withdraws its training plans on Pagan and eases its footprints on Tinian, what does it mean for military readiness in the Pacific as tensions rise with Asia? Tomas Manglutnia reports.
I would say it's not necessarily a downscaling, but a shift in the kind of training that we're going to accomplish.
It's been described as a scale back of plans, but top DoD officials at a recent joint press conference with CNMI leaders say it's more of a reshuffling.
From a future force perspective, the value of what we will derive from the concepts that we've been discussing with the CNMI are going to be of immense value to the Department of Defense.
Bombing Pagan and high-caliber live training on Tinian are off the table in the Marianas. However, the general says those types of simulations exist in Australia, America's West Coast, Hawaii, and Northeast and Southeast Asia, with 5 domains in mind: land, air, sea, space, and cyber. It comes at a time when the Russian invasion of Ukraine escalates and the military eye turns towards China and its reach in Taiwan.
Those of us who live in the region, it's very clear to us that China represents the greatest strategic threat to security, not only in the Indo-Pacific, but to the entire globe.
He says the current landscape has changed dramatically and readiness looks different today than it did decades ago.
Instead of thinking about the clash of mass armies on land, what we more think about now is the combination of these kinds of smaller, distributed, harder to target units acting in concert with air and Navy forces to accomplish the kinds of missions that we think that we're going to have to accomplish both here, potentially in the Pacific and in other regions.
Tomas Manglotnia for KUAM News.
A 5th fast attack submarine is now being home ported in Guam. According to a Navy news release, the Los Angeles-class USS Annapolis arrived March 28th at Naval Base Guam as part of a strategic laydown plan for naval forces in the Indo-Pacific. The release states that the security environment in the Indo-Pacific requires that the U.S. Navy station the most capable ships forward. It goes on to say that this posture allows for rapid responses with the greatest amount of striking power and operational capability to bear in the timeliest manner. The Annapolis has been a crew of about 16 officers and 127 enlisted sailors. Its previous home port was in San Diego and now joins the USS Asheville, USS Key West, USS Jefferson City, and the USS Springfield, which arrived in Guam 1 week earlier on March 21st. Still to come on Your News Leader, a program for those interested In the sport of hunting, and still to come, details on an upcoming prayer service taking place tomorrow. These stories and more coming up next.
Honey, do you want some milk?
Do you ever wonder how your favorite products make their way into your local stores? Most arrive on state-of-the-art Matson vessels that transport containers of food, household items, equipment, and supplies into the islands every week. Because we know that you depend on us, we work closely with our partners to ensure that our shipments arrive on time, all the time, so you can find your favorite products when you need them. We transport the region's most precious cargo that supports successful businesses and promotes a better quality of life for our families. Matson is proud to have been the hometown shipping carrier for Guam, the CNMI, and Micronesia for the past 25 years, and you can count on us to be here for generations to come.
Half a day. Gas prices continue to rise, and we are here to help. We have revised Programang Salapi to provide a $300 direct cash assistance payment to most households. We've expanded income eligibility so more families will benefit.
We've heard your struggles, and we hope this relief will help during these difficult times. The Department of Administration will begin accepting applications on Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. For more information, visit doa.guam.gov.
This ad is paid for by the Office of the Governor using government funds.
Let us know what's up on our KUAM News WhatsApp tip line at 671-727-0094. Share information about what's happening in your town, on Guam or the CNMI, and what you want us to know. Reach us on WhatsApp at 671-727-0094.
Some last-minute items were added to the agenda today ahead of tomorrow's resumption of legislative session. Legislative Secretary Amanda Shelton moved forward two bills, one that provides a $5 million appropriation to help build a student service center and engineering building at UOG, and a measure to approve the Hagåtña redevelopment and revitalization master plan. Speaker Teresa Terlahi also noted a pair of other substantive measures that are potential additions. One would address soaring gas prices. The other calls for expansion of a local self-defense statute.
Bill number 261-36 LS, an act to repeal Article 4 and Article 5, both of Chapter 26, Title 11, Guam Code annotated, relative to eliminating the liquid fuels tax if it's reported out of committee, with amendments, hopefully. And also Bill number 12-36 COR, which was introduced by Joseph Augustine, an act to amend sections 7.111 and 7.112 of Article 5 and 7.86B2A of Article 4, all of Chapter 7, Title 9, Guam Code annotated, relative to expanding the Castle Doctrine justification for acts of self-defense and eliminating the requirement of retreating before the use of force in the face of imminent danger.
Sessions resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. Topping the agenda will be to resolve the Committee of the Whole to discuss the administration officials, Senator Chris Dueña's controversial resolution to terminate the public health emergency. Meanwhile, Senator Frank Blas questioned whether the governor's annual State of the Island address will be scheduled. Typically, it's held early in the year, but we've asked Adelup as well as we're told they're still not set on a date.
This body received any word about the State of the Island address from the executive branch?
For the executive branch?
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. We've invited them, we've been trying to set a date, but they have not set a date. Neither has the congressman, so we're still waiting for both of them to confirm a date for their present addresses to the legislature.
Speaker Terlahi said she hopes to have them scheduled by the end of April, as she's trying to avoid having them too late in the election year. Following the introduction of the Guam Heartbeat Act of 2022, last week a pro-life prayer service will be held tomorrow. Holy Thursday, outside the Hagåtña Cathedral, Archbishop Michael Burns will be speaking about the sacredness of life alongside members of the Guam Catholic Pro-Life Committee. Bill 291 was introduced by Senator Talina Nelson and modeled after the Texas heartbeat law. It proposes banning abortions after a fetal heartbeat is detected. The legislation has drawn opposition from the Bureau of Women's Affairs as well as the Guam People for Choice. As for the Archbishop, based on a preliminary view of the bill, he says he's optimistic the Archdiocese will support the legislation since it would save lives of unborn children. The pro-life prayer service is scheduled for tomorrow at 11 a.m. The alternate lodging facility located in the Garden Court in Tumon closed down Monday. As you may recall, the ALT-FAC is what replaced the isolation facility in Bayview when COVID cases started going down. Public Health COVID-19 Incident Commander Fernando Estevez.
Which we anticipated, right? And so kind of part of our transition, both in decreasing our operational footprint, as well as to coincide with the lifting of restrictions as well and getting back to normal.
The incident commander added that when the Bayview isolation facility closed down to when the ALT-FAC was opened in the Garden Court, only 22 people were utilizing it. He stated that public health wishes to be frugal and judicious with funds, hence the decision to close the alternate lodging facility as no one is currently using it. There are currently no plans to open another isolation facility. And those interested can learn the sport of hunting for free through the Tafan Pesca Let Us Hunt program at the Guam Department of Agriculture all month long. It's funded by the Guam Hunter Education Program through a grant from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Grant Program. This is how it works. Experienced hunters will pair with a beginner to teach and hunt together throughout April. Jane Dia is the Program Coordinator 3 for the Guam Hunter Education Program under the Guam DOAG.
New hunter will definitely learn from an experienced hunter the different obstacles, challenges, and areas on Guam.
Dia added that the goal is to encourage passing down hunting traditions to beginning hunters that promote safe, ethical, and responsible hunts for Guam. The only requirement to join is owning your own equipment. One deer tag would be provided to each new hunter. Each experienced hunter receives a $10 gas card. To sign up for your team, contact Dia via email at jane.dia@doag.guam.gov. And stay tuned. Up next, Dave Elgato with your roundup of local sports and tonight's Green Leaders Profile. You're watching KUAM News.
If you really want to find out what you're made of, you can forget the personality tests and social media quizzes. Because the only way you're ever going to know is by heading into the big, wild, raging, so damn beautiful it hurts world and finding out for yourself. Were you born to follow a path, or were you born free? These are the things we thought about when we made the new Grand Cherokee. Made for what you're made of.
Time to grab me, dreaming about making my taste buds happy. Soon as the class bell rings, I'm making a rush to McDonald's to munch something.
Pep up your meal with McDonald's Spicy Chicken McNuggets. You'll love the heat of the spicy tempura coating with a blend of cayenne pepper and chili. For a limited time at McDonald's, I'm loving it.
KUAM Sports is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Four schools are being represented in the inaugural IIAAG bowling season. The sport has finally made its way into the high school season. Father Duenas, Harvest Christian Academy, St. Paul, and Southern High made history as the first teams hit the lanes at Central Lanes.
And bowling has been around the island for a long time. We have quite a few island champions that left island and won gold medals. And to have it now back in the high school, hopefully down the road we can have a all-island champion in bowling, like in other sports. And yes, just a fun all-around thing. And we're growing new bowlers now that we're all coming back out of the COVID environment. And the good thing about bowling is you don't have to be 6 foot tall. You don't have to be a football player. Anybody can do it.
55 athletes showed up for the first weekend of competition. The league expects more players to be eligible for the next meet. Format for the league is cross-country style.
There are numerous scholarships that offered. I was here 21 years ago, and we had Pepsi. Pepsi offered a scholarship for students. And so, yeah, I think it'll be a good thing once we get the program. This is just the beginning, so we're all new to it again. But it's been a long time in the making, and we're just happy to have it kicked off today.
Here with Coach Donan Cruz, head coach of the men's volleyball team over at Ball State. A lot of success in your first year at the Division I level.
Yeah, you know, we just wrapped up the regular season in the MIVA conference, and thankfully won the regular season outright. And that just happened last week, Saturday, while we were playing Purdue Fort Wayne. So yeah, now we're prepping for our conference tournament, and within the conference tournament, whoever wins that is the team that will represent the MIVA at the national tournament in UCLA.
Finished 20-3 overall. You were 12-2 in conference play. But this is big news for Ball State because the success you guys had this year, it's been quite some time since you won a regular season title.
Yeah, you know, I think it's been almost 20 years since the program has won a regular season, and over 25 years since we won the regular season title outright. So, you know, it's definitely big news. Ball State is very well known for some very high level players and coaches that are still in the game right now, and you know, a rich alumni and a rich volleyball history. So for a lot of the people that are following, it's been a fun season to kind of see us back on top, and a lot of fun things going on campus, man. There's a ton of support in the community, and it's been a fun year. So it's been a lot to kind of digest as we go along, but it's been a great season so far. The transition to NCAA Division I has been a fun process for me personally, and you know, a lot of my as I always say, a lot of my upbringing and the opportunities I had growing up around the game on Guam was you know, means a lot to me, and put me right in this position I'm in today. So I know it's a really cool opportunity for local boys to get out and do something special, and I'm sure that a lot of the young boys and girls back home are aspiring to get out and, you know, have good opportunities, and they're definitely there if you take advantage of them.
KUAM Sports is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Need a new phone? Trade in now and get up to $500 off our best 5G devices. Trade in your older phone in any condition and step up to better savings and speeds only our 5G network can provide. Check out our website and catch up on the best mobile experience. Trade in now. Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Guam's auto appearance specialist, Elegant Reflections, has been providing the automotive industry with professional detailing and car care products at its highest quality, from complete detailing, full interior detailing, exterior detailing, headlamp restoration, hand washing, seat and carpet shampoo, engine degreasing, undercarriage cleaning, paint sealant, fabric protection, paint oxidation removal, and so much more. Visit us at our new location. Call 646-5555 for an appointment. Elegant Reflections, Guam's auto appearance specialist, over 20 years of experience.
For tonight's Green Leaders Profile, we take a look at the concept of community gardens and how they thrive at Island Girl Power in Dededo.
KUAM News Green Leader Profiles is presented in partnership with UOG Center for Island Sustainability, Guam Green Growth, and UOG Sea Grants. It was in 2014 that Island Girl Power in Dededo broke ground for a major project that involved creating 28 garden plots for the community. Barbara Burkhart is a community garden manager and was happy to report that as of March of this year, all plots were rented out.
The garden has multiple purposes. I think even though they grow 365 days a year, and my role and the role of the volunteers is to maintain the gardens at a good level of productivity. It's available primarily for the youth and Island Girl Power Clubhouse to have activities as simple as cooking and as complicated as perhaps gathering data from our weather station that we may be acquiring through a governor's grant.
Gardeners range from the experienced to those who didn't have a green thumb, to those individuals and families that don't have the yard space or ideal soil. She even brought up one family that snagged a plot and the reason behind it.
They're just tired of paying grocery store prices and being a victim of the increase, and they're committed to eating out of their garden, literally planting something and eating, and they are intensively gardening to maximize their produce space.
Burkhart says the gardens offer a wide variety of food crops, from the typical okra, herbs, green onions, and kangkung, to the more unique plants.
We have a large planting of arrowroot, which is a traditional plant. It looks like a white carrot. Many people from 30, 40, 50 years ago remember arrowroot and are happy to see it in our garden. Another thing that's brand new that was brought into the garden with one of our gardeners is something called Roselle. It's a wild hibiscus, and if you've ever seen red Singer tea or the red teas at the coffee shops called wild hibiscus, it has kind of a tart cranberry flavor. We grew that for the first time. We're really excited about it.
Within the past 2 years, Island Girl Power has been able to expand the garden. In fact, late last year, UOG Sea Grant was able to install its first community-based recirculating aquaculture system at the compound.
We increased our food because we now have fish and bees, and our volunteers that came in sustained Island Girl Power during the last 2 years, but they also contributed thousands of hours of labor in various projects, both in the gardens and at the buildings.
And if you wish to donate to IGP to keep the gardens thriving,
we need concrete block, we need red soil, we need green waste that doesn't have trash in it. So we like grass clippings, but we prefer not to have the trash that gets mixed up in it. And we can take wood limbs up to 3 inches for our chipper. All of that is very important.
For KUAM News, I'm Jonah Gonchafris. KUAM News Green Leader Profiles is presented in partnership with UOG Center for Island Sustainability, KUAM Green Growth, and UOG Sea Grants.
And we wrap up the show with your birthday shout-outs. Here's Jason Salas.
Half a day and happy birthday on this April 13th to D, otherwise known to you and me as Doris Ann Compton. Happy birthday, Sissy Dory. May this day be as special as you are, and we love you so much. Peyton Kinsella Savlon, happy birthday number 14. Peyton Lily from Mac, Maya, Axel, Haley, Mama Patty, and Mama Angie. And Anthony Eric Regis Perez. Biba cumpleaños to you, and although we don't see each other, you are always in my heart and prayers. Huguaizahao. From Mr. B, Rufin Jr., Lucas, Logan, Pepe, AJ, Jason, and all of your family.
You can be a part of our Cold Stone Creamery Birthday Club by checking out KUAM.com. And that's our show. Thanks for watching, and please stay safe, Guam.